Welcome, my name is Mike McCoy. This hat fits me. The reason I'm showing it to you is because I want you to understand that I'm a man of very serious nature and I love my country, and yes, I was willing to die for it. Anyway, the actual message today is not about hats. I'd like you to join me in the great 10K Contrail Challenge. Yes, $10,000 Contrail Challenge. And the reason I put a dot after con is because this has been a total con. For many years now, the government has been lying to us concerning the nature of the contrails, the persistent ice crystal contrails as they call them, that are in our skies. Take a quick look. This is shot from my backyard. Our government says these are natural jet trails produced by ice crystals, better known as persistent contrails. There you go, turning into clouds. Look at this one. Starts off with a jet. See this spray coming out of it? And you got one, two, they just start to stretch out until you get clouds at the bottom. Here's another one right out of my backyard, Las Vegas, Nevada. Notice they're all turning into clouds. These are not, absolutely not, ice crystal persistent contrails as we're told. There's some more. Same thing, same lie, and I'm going to show you that physics proves that these cannot exist as natural ice crystal persistent contrails. So let's get on with a little bit of discussion about contrails and persistence and etc. The first thing you need to know is that there are two types of contrails, and a lot of times the terms are mixed up by people on the internet, debunkers, shills, trolls, these debunker sites. Well, the first type of contrail is a short-lived trail, comes out the back of a jet engine, and it's made from water vapor and particulates that are burned in a jet engine. Disappears in a few seconds all the way up to maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That's a contrail. We're not talking about contrails today. We're talking about persistent contrails, and that's a whole different animal. Actually, the process by which a contrail is formed is called sublimation. The process by which a persistent contrail forms is the opposite. It's desublimation. But without going into all the technical jargon about this, let's talk about what happens with a persistent contrail. A persistent contrail can exist in nature, and that same jet fuel can come out, and if the conditions are perfect, it can form a long, persistent streak in the air, break down into a cloud, which looks kind of like a cirrus cloud. But the contrails I've just shown you, flat out, do not meet those conditions. The weather, the atmosphere, doesn't meet those conditions, so they cannot be persistent contrails. Let's talk about what the parameters are. This is for a persistent contrail. The requirements, this is physics, folks. It's not if, come, maybe, or whatever. First, it has to be at an altitude of 30,000 feet or higher, the aircraft. Second, the temperature has to be 40 degrees centigrade or lower. And the humidity has to be above 100% when it's measured as relative humidity over ice, or 67.4% when it's measured as relative humidity on the World Meteorological Organization scale, and 99% of all humidity is now measured in RH, not RHI. A little bit different formula. One's measuring ice, the other's measuring water, I guess. But in any case, those three things must be there. You can't have one, can't have two, gotta have all three. One of them is missing, and you do not have a persistent ice crystal contrail. So, move right along. Here in Las Vegas, I did a study that spanned well over 100 days. And in that study, what I did was I photographed the contrails that were spread out all over the skies here. And each photograph I did with Skyder Alert, which is a phone app, date and time stamps those things, and I'll show you more about that later. So after I took the pictures of the contrails, then I'd go to the weather soundings that are published at the University of Washington and see what the parameters were in today's atmosphere. Anyway, for my study, I relaxed those parameters a little bit, because I wanted to be well within the bounds. So for my study, I considered any altitude above 26,000 feet as a possibility, even though it isn't. And I conceded the temperature. I don't care about the temperature. The temperature I'm assuming is always minus 40 Celsius or lower at 26,000 feet or higher. And then I dropped my humidity requirement to a measly 60%, which is more than 10% lower than the actual physics will tell us. So I figured if it falls into this range, and it doesn't make these numbers, it's even more specific that it cannot be a persistent ice contrail, which the government tells us we've been dealing with. So now let's take a look at my study. First, just a little bit of science. This is a study of Ulrich Schumann done in 1996. And I'd just like to call your attention to this part. Contrails persist if the ambient humidity is larger than the saturation humidity over ice surfaces, relative to humidity over RHI of 100%. And such ice-suspended air masses, ice particles, within the contrails grow by deposition of water vapor molecules from the ambient air. Contrails may persist as long as the ambient air in which the contrail forms stays ice supersaturated. That's over 100% RHI. This is Mr. Duda and others. Relating observations, contrail persistence, numerical weather analysis output. And he tells us straight here about Schumann again. The formation of persistent contrails occurs when the relative humidity RHI exceeds 100%. And then we have Mr. Hardy, who talks about determination of relative humidity in sub-zero temperatures. Well, remember, everything we're doing up here is in sub-zero temperatures. 26,000 feet is way below zero. Hardy gives us a handy chart, which tells us that RHI of 100% is equal to RH of 67.4%. And there it is. At 40 degrees centigrade, RHI, standard 100%. RHI, according to the World Meteorological Organization, is 67.4. That's the minimum humidity necessary to form persistent ice crystal contrails. Okay, now my study. On over 100 days, I looked at all of the things I mentioned before, and I took these pictures via Skyder. Notice that persistent contrail there, and the clouds forming from the previous ones. Okay, the date that this was filmed is January 27th of 2015. Okay, and it said that the highest humidity, relative humidity, at all altitudes above 26,000 feet was 5% or less. That's 1,400 times less humidity than is necessary by physics to form persistent ice crystal contrails. So, governments lie, physics, no, they don't lie. There's your picture, and here's who it went to. Senator Reid, Senator Heller, Representative Hardy, and the Governor of Nevada, Brian Sandoval. And we're talking about civil rights violations, because that's what these are. Whenever you spray people with poisonous chemicals, you're definitely violating their civil rights. Okay, take a look here. First of all, this is from the University of Wyoming radio sounding data. Observations on 27 January 2015. Here we go down to about 26,000 feet. We see it's at 3%, 3%. Oh, there it hit 5. Hit 5 at about 33,000 feet. And then follow the little line all the way down. It's almost nothing. Almost zero. And this takes us all the way down to about 85,000 feet, somewhere in that range. Next paper, 38%. Same thing. Look at the contrails that are forming clouds. Same senators. The date is 11/29. I ran this study from October through January. There's your high. It's that's about 26,000 feet. And you can see it's 37, 32, da 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 da. Run it down here, follow the line. You'll see it hits 38% here at about 36,000 feet. And then it just drops off. Boom, 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 boom. And what I'm trying to show you here, folks, is that physics says these cannot be persistent contrails over ice. They can't be. It's impossible, and this is an irrefutable fact. This is very well-known science. Appelman, Schumann, Duda, very, very well-known science in the weather community. Every meteorologist in the world knows this. Look at this mess. 26%. Same people. You think they're going to respond? No. There's been thousands of these sent to representatives all over the country by all different people. And their response comes to you and says, oh, those are ice crystal contrails. They're not dangerous. That's a joke, folks. These people are not looking out for you. Here we go. We see 13 and 15 here. That's about 8230. That's about 26,000 feet. Now, read between the lines. Boom, boom. There it hit 26%. That's the highest. Run it right down. Nada. All the way up to another 80,000 feet. Here's 21%. And the date on this one is October 31st. Look at that mess. These are chemical clouds formed by chemical trails sprayed by aircraft on purpose and for the purpose of probably for controlling the weather and solar heat reflection, or maybe not. We really don't know for sure. There's all kinds of things out there. There's your 21% right there at about 25,000 feet. Run it down, da 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 da. You can see nothing. Again, virtually impossible, folks. 19%. There you go. 19%. Virtually impossible. One more time. And this evidence, my dear friends, is irrevertible. Now 28. These I pulled randomly. 27. 26. 34. Not one of these. 39. Not one of these. 42. 22%. I could go on all day, but what's the point? This video would take 5 hours. So now that you understand what I'm doing, proving that these are an impossibility as far as being what the government says they are, ice crystal persistent contrail. All right, let's talk about the contest. The whole idea of this contest, or challenge if you would, is to see if there's anybody out there that can prove that these are ice crystal contrail. And the way you have to do that, you have to have a PhD. Here. And you have to email your CV, your picture, and your proof to 10,000con.trail@gmail.com. That's 10,000con.trail@gmail.com. Now, why is it that I want only PhDs in weather sciences? You need a PhD in meteorology, atmospheric sciences of some kind, or physics. And the reason I'm holding that standard is I doubt that there's many people with a PhD are going to make a total fool of themselves trying to prove that these are ice crystals, because they can't. In order to do it, to win the $10,000, which by the way is coming out of my pocket, this is not provided by some group, not provided by some nutcases. This is right out of my pocket, because I know that they can't do it when I'm asking them to do. Otherwise I wouldn't even offer it. So the point is this. You want the 10K, you got to send me your proof. Your proof has to do two or three things. First of all, it has to be published. It can be your science or somebody else's science. But it has to be published, peer-reviewed, well-vetted, and accepted by the American Meteorological Association and the World Meteorological Organization. You have to prove Appelman-Schmidt's wrong. You have to prove Schumann's wrong. You have to prove that persistent ice crystal contrails can form at a relative humidity of just 5% at altitude. That's all you got to do to get 10 grand. Now, The other reason I'm limiting this to PhDs, and there's the 5% one. I just thought that was great, 5%. I had one at 11, several at 19, about average about 30. But anyway, the other reason I'm only opening this for PhDs is there's tons of debunkers on the internet, people that will tell any lie. I believe many of them are being paid to lie. I know they are. They're being paid either by the government or the industries that are supplying all this material, which you got to realize is a lot of money. This is being sprayed not only in Vegas, every city in the country, over the countryside, and over England, Ireland, Spain, France, Germany. Virtually every free country in the world, and a lot that aren't free, is being sprayed over. And there's a reason for it, but we really don't know. People say it's solar radiation management. Well, last night I watched them spray about 9, 10, 12 o'clock at night, 3 or 4 times all night. I had a decent moon. I could see the contrails being poured out. Well, you can't solar radiation manage if the moon's out. How is that going to help? So I'm not so sure. Other people say it's geoengineering. And I'd like you to go to geoengineeringwatch.org if you're new to this whole process. There's thousands and thousands of pages. And in those pages there's lots of different tests of water, air, human beings, soil, that show that what's being sprayed out of these airplanes is nano-aluminum oxide, barium, strontium, and many, many other things. But those are the 3 main ingredients. All 3 are toxic. That's one reason the government's not cluing you in on it. This stuff is falling down, you're breathing it. Nano-aluminum cannot be filtered, okay? It can't, even the blood-brain barrier will not stop nano-aluminum from penetrating into your brain. So it's in your body, it's in your children, it's in the soil, it's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the wildlife, and it's in cattle stock. What's the point? I'm not an anti-government guy. I want the government to tell me what's in it, how to protect myself from it, why they're doing it, and when they're going to stop, if ever. So I would like you all to join me on that quest. It's very important that we, as a group of people, if we're concerned about our environment, get together and demand answers. And I mean, we can't do it on the internet. We're going to have to get out in the streets and carry signs and protest and do whatever necessary to get some attention. Because let me tell you something. All the TV weather stations keep saying these are persistent ice crystal contrails. They're all lying. Those TV people, weather people, know what's going on. And as a matter of fact, mentioning that, I'll give anybody from a television station weather thing that's got a PhD, I'll give them $11,000 bucks. They can take their whole staff to dinner if they can prove what I earlier outlined. The next thing I'd like is anybody out there who's in this fight, who's been in this fight for years, a lot of people have been in this fight a lot longer than me. I'd like you to help me to make this go viral. It may not do any good, but post it to your representatives, your senators, your governor's office. Post it everywhere you can. Post it on the internet in all the different groups. Post it, like I said, to your senators and congressmen, everywhere you can. Help me make it go viral. The word needs to get out. Those people that you know, your family like, and say they think you're nuts, show them this. Ask them what they think now, when this is absolute, unequivocal, virtually flawless scientific proof that those things are not ice crystal contrails. Now, if you have a TV, stream show, radio station, whatever, I'll be glad to debate any PhD on your show anytime about my study, and if he thinks that my study doesn't reflect that these cannot be persistent contrails made of ice crystals, like the lie we've been told. There it is, folks. You've heard it all. $10,000 to the first person that proves me wrong, as came in this video. And the contest is open till July 1st of 2016. So you got all kinds of time. There's that parameters I showed you earlier. Persistent ice crystal contrail requirements. Real easy to see. The requirements I used, which were relaxed, so we'd have plenty of room. And by the way, out of over 100 days, there were 2 days where the humidity was above 60%, only 2. So this has been repeated over 100 times, and it shows every time that these can't be ice crystals.
Don't forget, email your picture, your curriculum vitae, and your proof. 10,000con.trail@gmail.com. It's Mike McCoy. Send it to 10,000con.trail@gmail.com. And by the way, if you are a PhD with a meteorological background or weather science or physics, and you have some morals left, you have some ethics left, and you maybe have some concern that you, your family, your children, your grandchildren, everything you eat, everything you breathe, everything you drink, everything in our damn entire environment is being poisoned, then do a study. Do your own study over your own city. Anybody can do it. You know where the weather science things are? At University of Wyoming, Radio Sondi page. You know how to take a picture, so you can do your own study or you can verify my study. And if you do that, please send that to me at this Gmail address, and I will post it on the internet. I'd like to have everyone acquiesce that has any courage left and can actually challenge the government, because believe me, folks, we need to get this stopped and we need to get it fixed. Thanks again.